Right, so I've done all the measurement work and these have turned out really well. So I'll go through the crossover design I've ended up with and also the original as well. So as far as the original went, we had a pretty simple crossover really. So on our tweeter circuit we came in through a 5 microfarad electrolytic, and then we carried on to a 5.6 ohm resistor out to our tweeter positive, and then we also had a small 0.2 millihenry inductor down to ground. I think that was about 1.5 ohms. And then on the woofer circuit we had a little AERCO inductor, this little jobby here, and that was 0.78 millihenry. Carried on to our woofer, and we had a 8 microfarad electrolytic down to ground. Right, so my new crossover is reasonably similar on the tweeter circuit. I found some Ditton 15XR crossover boards, which I seem to have a number of for some reason, so I've used this to build the new crossover. So this is what I've ended up with. So we look at the tweeter circuit, because the tweeter circuit is largely the same excuse me, as it was before. A few differences, but not anything major. So I come in through a 3.3 ohm resistor, and then I hit a 4.7 microfarad polycap, and then I have a 0.1 millihenry AERCO inductor, and that's to take the lump out of the top of the tweeter's response. So here is my new on axis with the on axis without this inductor. So hopefully from that you can see the peak that this has pulled out. That peak does drop off as you go off axis, but it's still quite prominent. It's right up there, so it's probably not that audible, but yeah. And then we come into the positive of our tweeter, and then I've stolen the inductor that was off the original board and put that back in, 0.2 millihenry. In fact, the inductor I was using when I was doing the crossover design was 0.24, but I can't notice really any difference in the response ever so slightly, so it's better to make use of that, because this is a bit of a budget job, as I'm sure you can imagine. And then on the woofer circuit I've retained, so originally the Ditton 15XR just had an inductor on the woofer circuit, first order, and I've retained that, and that is 2.27 millihenry. Into our positive of our woofer, and then the bit I've had to introduce to integrate it with this tweeter is turn it into a second order with a 10 microfarad capacitor and a 6.8 ohm resistor. So that's what I've ended up with, and it's worked out really well. Here are the measurements. My amplifier was turned down when I took these. They're more sensitive than the frequency responses are going to show you, but yeah, it turned out really good. I've listened to them and they're really nice. They are really nice. Right, so these are finished and I am super pleased with them. They've taken a bit longer than I'd kind of hoped. Bit of a budget job, but yeah, I think they've turned out really nice. I've been listening to them in the workshop while I was doing the covers, and they've got a really nice tone to them, and I hope I've kind of got them the way Bernard remembers them. That was the idea, and I'll put the measurements in now, and they've turned out really well. And you can see that I've just kind of sloped it down towards the top end to sort of put a bit more warmth in there, and they certainly sound like that listening to them, but they do have quite a lot of detail. Better components on the crossover, certainly on the tweeter circuit, and yeah, they've just come out really, really nicely. Got new binding posts on the back as well. Yeah, I think they've come out really well. Right, I'll stick a load of pictures and stuff in and then call this one done.